It's showtime. This is Tom Ballard, the Groundwater Guy, with our Groundwater Talk live show for August 12th, 2021. I think we got some interesting topics to talk about today, so let's look at the agenda we have. So, what we want to talk about is our calendar of some upcoming events in the water industry. We're going to go through those and the dates coming up and some of the agendas and see if there's any interest out there. We got a highlight of small water districts that we're going to look at real quick. We're going to get a current update on the California fires issue and how that affects water districts. And we're going to talk a little bit about cannabis in the Mojave, the illegal cannabis trade down there, and how it's affecting the water industry as well. So some interesting topics coming up here. So let's get to it. So first off, for our events coming up, we have the National Rural Water Association Water Pro Conference. That's coming up. That's an in-person conference, live in person, September 13th through 16th in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Water Pro Conference, probably really for small water system operators and those types of folks. I've been to them before. They're instructive. They do have an exhibit hall with stuff of interest to water system operators. But I think the primary focus is small water districts, small rural water districts, especially. And but if you're interested, the registration link is there, waterproconference.org. Pretty easy to remember. The agenda for this year is really probably the top of the agenda is cybersecurity, and I'm really glad to see that happening because we've seen a lot of these ransomware attacks happening out there, and small water systems are probably about as vulnerable as anybody. They're probably not high on the list because they don't always have a lot of money, but nevertheless, it's something that people need to start taking seriously, and even the smallest of us still need to look at that. So there's going to be some talks there on cybersecurity, and I think we're going to see more on that particular topic because it's hugely important. I mean, these ransomware attacks only seem to be increasing, and they go after smaller and smaller targets as the bigger targets harden down. So we could see small water districts getting attacked, and to have them cripple the computer system when you're trying to serve water to your system would be devastating. So it's an important topic and something that really needs to be paid attention to. Of course, the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Rural Development Division is going to be there to talk about their funding program. They got a really nice online application, so they do training for that there. There's going to be a lot of talks on various phases of running your system and operations talks. An ever popular subject these days is PFAS, so there's going to be a few talks on that and really how PFAS affects wells. So we're seeing that at a lot of conferences. There's always seems to be a track that covers PFAS issues these days, and we're seeing a lot more regulation in that regard. So it's kind of an ever-evolving thing that definitely needs an update. So something that's also very important to the water industry is workforce development. There's going to be some board training, but as we see a lot of the industry aging out, it's really important to start bringing in younger people to train them up and get them into the workforce. We're just not seeing a lot of that. So National Rural Water Association and a lot of the state rural water associations have really upped up the development program through internships and paid internships and programs like that to get people into the industry. So it's definitely something we look forward to seeing because there's to a certain extent you can replace operators with automation, but for the most part, you're still going to need somebody out there to dig up those valves, to check them, to fix them, to replace parts, and you're just not going to automate your way out of that. There's SCADA systems are great for telling you what's going on, and it might reduce the need for personnel, but for the most part, you're never going to get rid of the personnel you need to run a water system. So bringing young people in is really vital to the industry, and so they're going to address that there as well. And then of course the ever popular exhibit hall with the vendors and a lot of the giveaways and stuff there too. So we're going to see that as well. So next up, probably about the same time as Water Pro Conference, is the Groundwater Resources of California, or Groundwater Resources Association of California, GRAC, is having the Western Groundwater Congress in Burbank, California, September 13th through 15th. And this is also going to be an in-person event. There's the registration link there. One of the interesting things they're doing is it's an in-person event, but it's kind of a clever way to approach it. Is they're handing out different colored wristbands to determine which, you can select which level of exposure you want. If you want the stand back from 6 feet type of contact, you can get a wristband for that. If you're okay with shaking people's hands, then you can get a wristband for that, and there's one for in between too. So they're going to have the room set up so that there's some sections where there's a lot of spacing between the seats, and then regular spacing too. So take your choice, and that's kind of a clever and good way to do it. People can select what they're comfortable with. So some of the topics they're going to cover is kind of the usual for GRAC, water resources exploration and development. So what's new in that topic? Groundwater management is certainly in California. That's a huge issue as with the droughts going on, the new drought we're in and the old drought. We're depleting our groundwater resources faster than they can be replenished. So we're really looking at those challenges there. So there's certainly going to be a lot of talks on that. Contaminant assessment and remediation. There's still a lot of ongoing remediation and cleanups going on out there. So they're going to talk about the latest techniques and tricks in that business. And then kind of a catch-all category, unique challenges and new opportunities. So what kind of unique challenges do we have going on? Well, there's certainly the drought and managing groundwater, and what are the new opportunities out there? And so we're going to see some of those talks as well. And they're going to do some fun stuff too, because it's down in Los Angeles. They're going to do some movie trivia and some prizes for dressing up like movie stars and some fun stuff like that. So that's GRAC Western Groundwater Congress. And coming up in December, now the National Groundwater Association typically has two events that they kind of hold together. The Groundwater Summit, which is really the engineers and geologists, the professionals, is usually held in conjunction with Groundwater Week, which is really focused on drillers and the vendors, centering around that part of the business. Last year, they did not hold an in-person event. Normally, they would have held that in Las Vegas. They did not hold an in-person event, and so it was all online. And they actually did a pretty good job with that. There's always, whenever you do online stuff, there's always the technical glitches to deal with. So but I attended most of the sessions and felt that they really did a pretty good job with that. So this year they're separating it out. The professionals, the geologists and engineers, apparently did not feel comfortable enough with having an in-person event. So they're doing a virtual event this year for the Groundwater Summit. And that's going to be December 7th through 8th. It's going to be online. Here's the registration link for that. There's more information there. They're still calling through the papers that have been submitted, but let's take a quick look at what the agenda is, or the tracks anyway they've got set up. So applications of geophysical imaging techniques, both for contamination and groundwater exploration. So there's going to be a track on that. Groundwater remediation, always a popular topic. We're still seeing a lot of cleanup going on out there. So what's the latest and greatest in that field? Groundwater quality and sustainability. California, of course, is prominent in sustainability issues, but we're seeing groundwater depletion throughout the United States, and even in wet areas, we're seeing issues there. So that's a huge topic. A lot of the West this year is in drought conditions, and even extending into the Midwest. So sustainability is a huge issue, and we kind of pick around the sides on that, but never address it straight up. So that's going to be a topic. Groundwater quality, of course, is always a huge issue. A lot of contaminants out there to deal with, and how we manage those. A lot of it is done at the wellhead, it seems like, anymore, but there really needs to be more management practices to deal with that before it gets in the groundwater, and that's something that really needs to be addressed. So hopefully they're going to talk about some of that. Managed aquifer recharge goes with the sustainability issues. So getting into the recharge issue is important, especially in places like California where we need to sustain the groundwater, and we need to put water back in the ground. And so it's been a haphazard application of groundwater recharge. There needs to be a lot more of it. So they're going to talk about the Maui Supreme Court case, and in case you don't know, that really has to do with the Clean Water Act and connecting groundwater with surface water. So as you know, the Clean Water Act basically applies to navigable waters, or waters of the U.S. And the court definitions of navigable waters is probably not what you and I would traditionally think of as navigable. Maybe a wet spot on the ground. So it's kind of challenging. But this court case really deals with the connection of groundwater and surface water. So really what they decided was that any groundwater that can reasonably expected to be connected to any what would be considered waters of the U.S. or navigable waters is subject to the Clean Water Act. So it brings a heavy hammer to the regulatory field in dealing with groundwater contamination issues, and that's really what that case was all about. So they're going to discuss the implications of that, and then of course anything else groundwater is going to cover a variety of miscellaneous topics that people can submit papers on almost anything, and sometimes that's the most interesting part of the talks is people just discussing some of those issues. So that's all going to be online. Now, the other half of the National Groundwater Association's December event is Groundwater Week, and that's going to be a live event to be held in Nashville, so just right up the road for me, so I'm excited about that. Disappointed that the scientists and engineers are going online, but because I like getting out there and seeing the folks, but I'm going to attend anyway, and we'll talk with the drillers and the vendors and have some fun. But that's going to be December 14th through 16th in Nashville, and the registration link is down below. It's just groundwaterweek.com, and you can register there for that. Nashville is a fun place. The convention center where they're having it is right downtown, so easy access to the honky tonks down on Broadway, and Nashville's a fun place. Much more fun than Las Vegas, I think. I'm not a huge fan of Las Vegas. I know some people love it out there, but I much prefer the atmosphere in Nashville, and getting out and having some barbecue and listening to some country music in the honky tonks down on Broadway is more my style than Las Vegas. So the agenda there really is what we're looking at is this once again is really geared towards the driller end of things and the vendors there. So we're going to see a lot of stuff with well design, well development and rehab. We're going to see pumps and VFDs. There's quite a few talks on VFDs this year, so that's going to be interesting. Business and operations for drillers. It is a business, and so there's going to be some talks on that. Job site safety. That's always a huge issue with drillers because they're around moving equipment, and so safety is a huge issue. And then also workforce development for drillers, just like the water system operators. A lot of drillers are not younger folks are not coming into the drilling business. It's hard work, and so it's something that really needs to have people coming into the business. A lot of these drilling companies are family businesses, and kind of getting some of the younger generation in there can work, but a lot of people are moving on to other things. So the sustainability of the drilling business is certainly an issue as well. So they're gonna talk a little bit about that as well, and so that's that. So really. That's the events we have on our calendar. Now, I'm setting up an online calendar where I can track events and make that available for folks. So if you have any upcoming events you know about, state association meetings or anything like that, or any, I don't have any AWWA information in here. There's a lot of different water organizations in California. I know I missed the California Groundwater Association meeting. This week, the Tri-State Conference is going on in Nevada. So I'm missing a number of things here. We want to set up a calendar so people can access that. So if you have any leads on that, probably the easiest way to get a hold of me is through my LinkedIn profile. And my email address is on there as well, so you can grab that and get a hold of me, and I'm happy to get your event on the calendar and talk about it, give you some information, some dates, and the URL, and we'll talk about it in upcoming episodes. All right, so moving on to our next agenda, a small water district highlight. We're going to talk about a small water district I'm doing some work on presently. It's located in southeast Tennessee. It's got about 200 connections right in there, and currently their water supply comes from 4 springs. The spring boxes are actually covered to protect them, so they're pretty secure. So the water quality is not an issue so much as it is the supply. The springs in summertime, especially during dry conditions, can reduce the flow enough that they're having trouble sustaining the amount of water they need to meet maximum daily demands. So they've been directed to actually install a well to add supply reliability. So while they're doing that, there's other repairs and upgrades that they need to do. So let me just show you some pictures, and you can see that they definitely need some upgrades. And fortunately, they're working on that. They got a great engineer working on this job. So let me just show you what it looks like. Yeah, and you can see here's a couple of their tanks here. This is a fiberglass tank to the right, and a steel tank, corrugated steel to the left. And you can see there's definitely some damage there that needs to be repaired, so they can't fill this tank all the way. Pretty heavy timber and brush out there. If you look kind of in front of where this pickup truck is and behind that tank, is probably the best location we can have for a new well. We tracked down, this is going to be in fractured bedrock, so we actually did some fracture trace and liniment analysis out there and identified what we think is a pretty good location. It's probably going to be about a 400-foot deep, 6-inch well. It's going to be open hole, pretty conventional in this part of Tennessee. Is everything's going to be surface casing and an open hole below that. Things usually stand pretty well. Now the trick in this area is of course we have metamorphic rocks. It's kind of a relatively high grade of metamorphism. The bedding planes or the foliations are fairly steeply dipping. We're kind of right between the Blue Ridge Province and the Valley and Ridge, so you really have beds standing on end in this area, and so that's important to note too. Is the drilling. To get a straight hole in situations like that, you got to be a little careful when you're drilling. So having a local driller that understands the conditions is pretty important. So we are working on the well design right now. Here's another picture of their water treatment. Basically, they're just doing chlorination at this point. Another tank here. They basically run this up the hill and then to a tank, and then they gravity feed to their connections. So you can see the vertical split on the wall here, just to the left of the door. There was some ground shaking that went on out here, so that we do get earthquakes in this part of the world, and actually opened up a big gap there. This thing goes all the way through the building. So for building stability is a little bit compromised. That needs to be repaired as well. So this is basically a lot of upgrades could be made here. So like I said, there's a great engineer working on this job. They've got funding via a USDA grant and loan, so they should have enough funding to get everything done here and really clean up the system. Like I mentioned, they're going to add a water supply well to supplement the spring so that they can have year-round reliable water supply and not have to worry about not meeting their maximum daily demand or water pressure issues. They're also going to repair and improve the storage tanks, so that's going to be something that they're going to do. And then the piping, some of it needs to be replaced. Some of it's plastic piping that needs to be replaced. It's been out there for a while, and even some of the metal piping probably needs to be replaced. It needs to be simplified a little bit, fix some of the valves. So all the usual stuff with the small water systems that have been there for a while. So it could definitely be improved. But like I say, they have a great engineer on the job who's addressing all this and really knows how to make the money go as far as possible. So that's our small water system spotlight here, and hopefully that's been interesting. It's really when it comes to the funding, the USDA really is a great source for both grants and low interest loans for rural water systems. And so if you're a water system in need of funding, it's really important to look into the USDA. They have a great online application process. They have several programs, and so it's definitely worth looking into that. All right, next up is California fires update. And the big one out there is the Dixie Fire. That's in Northern California up around Lake Almanor. That's running at over 500,000 acres, and it's 30% contained at this point, so it's definitely going to get bigger. There's other large fires. They're mainly in Northern California. There's fires throughout California due to the extremely dry conditions, but most of the really big ones are in Northern California. There's also some big ones up in Oregon as well, north of the California border. So we're seeing a lot of fires out there this year, and some big ones. Like I say, the Dixie Fire, over 500,000 acres. That is right now is right around the third largest fire in California history, and it may end up being the largest by the time all is said and done. With only 30% contained at this point, it stands to grow a lot larger. So huge fire. It has leveled the entire town of Greenville. South of Lake Almanor. The entire town is burned and gone, and a lot of houses. There's been almost 300 houses destroyed so far, so a huge fire. And as a matter of fact, we're seeing, I just talked to somebody from Denver a couple days ago, and they are seeing the smoke from California actually getting all the way out to Denver and affecting the air quality in Denver. That's how significant it is. You can see it on the satellites, so huge deal. So here's basically what it looks like here. Let me just bring this up, and you can see all these little red dots are the fires in California. And let me just zoom in. Some of those big red spots are the bigger fires. The reddish blobs are the bigger fires in Northern California. So let me just zoom in for you here so we can focus on the Dixie fire up here. And you can see we got some other fires over here. This is a hot spot here. Let me zoom in a little bit more. You can. This is the Monument Fire, the McFarland Fire, the Hay Press Fire, the Antelope Fire. These are all. This one you can see 44,000 acres. The Monument Fire is running at 64,000 acres. Hay Press Fire, a little smaller, almost 20,000 acres. But of course, the big kahuna is the Dixie Fire here, and you can see the area covered. It's just really a huge deal here. So this right now is running at 510,227.71 acres, and they're listing it as of today as 30% contained. So that stands to get a lot bigger. That is the Dixie Fire, and I really need to turn that off. So. The Dixie Fire is the big one. As we zoom back out, you can see we get some other fires down here in Southern California. There is some up in the Yosemite area. And so as we get down farther, we can see there's a bunch in the LA area. Of course, there always is. But these are a lot smaller fires. The Dixie Fire pretty much dwarfs anything else in the state right now, and it's a huge deal. So, what are the implications for small water systems or any water systems at all? I mean, they certainly face challenges from the fire. So it's something we want to look at because besides just the obvious, people are being evacuated. It can certainly affect your entire water system. I was just out last week in California looking at some water systems and a couple that had been affected by past fires, and so we know they can do some significant damage. So it's not just destroying homes, it's not just evacuating people, it's damage to your system as well. So one of the things that can happen is, well, the damage to well houses and surface fittings. Obviously, these fires are burning pretty hot. So they can actually burn well houses. They can damage the surface fittings. If you got a turbine pump up there, the fire can scorch that and certainly do some damage. So when you come back from a fire after everything's settled down, you really need to assess what the damage is and if there's anything you need to fix on that. Even metal structures such as tanks and valves can be damaged. The heat of the fire is enough that it can almost weld the valve shut and partially melt the tanks, or line tanks especially are susceptible to that. So there'd have to be a full inspection on those. Plastic piping is a real danger. Some of these systems I looked at last week, one of them had surface water that they were using, and they were piping it down from the mountains through surface HDPE on pedestals, and when the fire came through, it just melted everything down to a puddle. Their entire surface water system was gone. They had to rely on buying water from a neighboring community, and so it was not a good situation. They have a couple wells that they don't really use, so I was out actually assessing their wells because they're looking at that as being maybe their long-term supply at this point, and switching over to well water supplemented with purchased water from a neighboring water district. So plastic piping, even under the ground. Another water system I looked at, they were telling me they had a fire come through there a few years ago, and even the PVC piping that was buried underground, the heat from the fire was so hot it actually melted the PVC piping that was under the ground. They had to go through and replace replace the PVC piping, even though it's buried down at least a foot or so. So the heat of the fires can actually damage plastic piping that's even underground. So an important consideration there. And then we have the interruption of service. I mean, the people that may be still there that didn't get hit by the fire, now their water system may be down. They don't have any water, so they got to look at temporary water storage and hauling water. So that's a huge deal. And then the water system is hit also with loss of revenue. That can in a lot of these small water systems, that can really be a huge deal as well, because people's homes burn down. They're no longer able to pay. And so that's a big issue as well, and so the water district can struggle with that. So the danger of fires is huge. In the Dixie fire area and on some of these other fire areas, they're really dealing with that. I talk a lot with California Rural Water Association, and they're doing some emergency communications with some of these water districts and help them coordinate their response, which is good. But we're definitely seeing a lot of impacts out there, and as these fires continue to grow, and you can see the containment level on some of these things is fairly low. As they continue to grow, then we're going to see more damage to these water districts. Okay, last up on our agenda is illegal cannabis operations versus water systems in the Mojave Desert of California. And this actually is a huge deal. It's a serious deal. I think the state, a few years ago when they legalized marijuana, they thought that maybe some of the illegal marijuana growing operations would go away, but the state, in their infinite wisdom, has really taxed the heck out of legal marijuana, which has made it profitable to grow illegal marijuana, and is popping up. It used to be that you got up in the northern California counties, back in the woods where they were isolated, and that's where you'd find the pot farms. Now the big deal is in the Mojave Desert, in San Bernardino County, Riverside County. We're seeing a lot of big marijuana farms popping up using hoop houses, and the impact on local water supply is pretty significant. So let's look at what some of this looks like here. So we can see that this actually is an actual picture of a recent bust. The hoop houses, the plastic has been torn down, but you can still see the cannabis plants here. And this is not a small operation by any stretch of the imagination. This is a sophisticated operation that uses drip irrigation, that uses cooling systems out there for the marijuana. So we're talking easily over 500 plants. What are you talking about? 10, 12, 15 acres there on this operation. It's a little bit humorous here because you can see that they left some Joshua trees in there, maybe for aesthetics or landscaping. So that's a little bit humorous. But the deal is they don't grow these things from seed out here. They bring them in. They start them in a hydroponics greenhouse, and they truck in the plants, so clones they call them. So they clone them in a greenhouse using hydroponics, and then they bring in the clones, and that's what they plant. So they can get these things up and running and harvesting in record time. So when you're talking about a county as big as San Bernardino County in California, Riverside County, is law enforcement just does not have the numbers to keep up with these things. So even an operation this size, they just can't get out there and deal with all this. And of course the other situation is these are not your normal neighbors. They're probably armed. They're probably not too friendly with people sniffing around or taking pictures and inquiring about their operations. So probably not the best neighbors you'd want to have. So you'd worry about your safety in this situation. So once again, this is a drone view of a busted operation. Normally you'd see the white plastic hoop houses out here, but those have been taken down. You can still see the remnants here. So big operations. This is just one. There is many out there. And so what we have is so the situation is this is an impact on small water districts. You get a lot of small water districts out in the desert, and they have a certain amount of population they serve. Now you have these marijuana operations coming in, these cannabis operations. And what they're doing is they come in, they buy up vacant lots or they lease land, they throw a little travel trailer out there, they get a meter, and now they're sucking water off the system. And all of a sudden the water usage, your maximum daily demand in the entire system goes way up because marijuana is a reasonably water intensive crop. So you got a situation where now you may not have enough capacity in your system to deal with the take from the cannabis operations. So what happens is some of these water systems are cutting them off, in which case they go out and they get a drill rig and they drill well. And now what you're doing is you're competing for groundwater in the same basin with the cannabis operation. That's not a good situation. Some water systems have taken a little bit more innovative approach, and they say, okay, they're going to steal the water anyway, so let's make some money off of it. So they do a tiered system. So if you take above a certain amount, they're going to charge you more. So if they're going to put in a well and take the water anyway, you might as well charge them and make some money off of that, and maybe put in some more of your own wells. Still, there's only so much groundwater to go around, and the impact on the area and the basin, the water levels, is significant. Now, another significant factor in these cannabis operations is that because of the chemicals they use, they're using a lot of fertilizer. So you're now developing nitrate issues in some of the wells out there. We're also seeing issues with pesticides starting to show up in some of these wells. And these pesticides detections are directly related towards applications in these cannabis operations. So now we have some significant long-lasting damage. So it's not just depleting the water supply, but now it's contaminating the water supply. And a lot of these cannabis operations, they're fairly mobile. They harvest their plants, they can rip everything up, and they can move on, and they can have a new operation up and running in a matter of weeks. Bring in those clones, plant them up, put up the hoop houses. They're experienced at this. So the damage they do environmentally, they don't really care about. So it is significant, and so these operations are a huge deal, and so far they've really been unable to come up with a good way to deal with it. The law enforcement just can't keep up is really what it comes down to. So there you have it on the cannabis operations out in the desert. I hope that that sheds some light on that deal. That it's not just some people growing a few pot plants in their backyard. These are significant major agricultural operations that are taking a lot of water, and that's the bottom line. Okay, that's it on our topics for today. So what we're doing with Groundwater Talk Live is we're going live every Thursday at 9 a.m. Pacific time, which would be 11 o'clock Central time. And so we are looking for guests to come on the show. We're looking at providing information that's of use to mainly water system operators as our target audience, but also scientists, engineers, drillers, anybody that has an interest in the water resources industry. That's who our target is. So we're looking really at trying to bring on some guests in the future, and as we've done in the past, and really have a wide range of topics out there that are relevant to and interesting to the water resources industry. So this is going to be our schedule. You can reach us if you want to watch. You can follow us on YouTube, and that's the Groundwater Guy channel on YouTube. That's probably the easiest way to look for it, is to go on YouTube and search for Groundwater Guy. Here's the actual link to the channel, but that's a lot of work to type that in. So just go on and look for Groundwater Guy, and you'll come right to our YouTube channel. We also have a Facebook group, Groundwater Talk Live Facebook group. Now, in order to live stream we can't just do a page. We have to have a group set up. So, but that group is open for anybody, and hopefully we don't have to have any restrictions on that. That's basically just for the live streams in there. We'll have the recordings, and you can come in and comment, and we'll track some of those things as well. Don't see any comments there today, but there we have it. Once again, Facebook has a long URL, but once again, it's just as easy to search on Facebook for Groundwater Talk Live. All right. If you're interested in being a guest on Groundwater Talk Live, and we're working right now to line up some guests, and I think we're going to have some interesting folks on. But every Thursday, 9 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Central time is when we go. If you're interested in coming on and talking about stuff that's interesting and relevant, whether it's your pump product, a technique you got out there, well rehab, if you're drilling, we're really interested in talking to water system operators. Water system operators always have great stories, and we'd like to hear yours. So what's your story is really what it comes down to. Here's the link to book a session. So I have a special page set up that you can go to, and this is the URL for that. So come on, book a talk with me. That'll get you in there, and then we can chat about what specifically you want to talk about, and we can come up with an interview format that covers the ground you want to cover. If you want to do it presentation style, that works too. We can accommodate PowerPoint. I just bring you on as a guest and let you take it if you got a PowerPoint and go from there. If you want to do it interview style, I'm certainly happy to do it that way too. We can ferret out some great information that way. So definitely looking for people to come on and chat with us and get some exposure. Like I say, we put it up on YouTube, we put it up on Facebook, and I also take the recording here and post that up on LinkedIn, and so we get some good exposure on LinkedIn. I tend to get a fair number of views on my posts on LinkedIn, so you get some exposure there. So, and once again, here is my LinkedIn contact information. That's a good way to get a hold of me. My email address is up there if you want to email me, or you can just post a message directly on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn every day and posting every day, so you can check that out and leave me a message and let's talk. This is kind of, like I say, it's kind of boring if I'm just on here talking by myself. So having some interaction with folks, getting in there, posting comments, and watching this is something that we really want to have going, because we want to have a conversation. You don't just want to listen to me yak at you. So let's have a conversation, and I look forward to seeing you next Thursday. Thank you.